Last time we were talking about the service that an ecosystem can give us, yeah, and we talk about this false dichotomy that we have, or business, or the environment, and I told you that this ecosystem has uh, a lot of benefits, and we talk some of them, and we give you as an example these two type of ecosystems. We are going to talk about two things that I don't know if you have here about conservation biology. If you are into ecosystems, we're going to talk about that. I don't know about these corridors of nature. And we are going to finish the class. I don't know if you have seen these type of animals. Yeah, so I'm going to show you a video about, yes, I know. This is the same face. My heart goes like, you wanted to pet it, yeah. There is a place that we preserve these animals, yeah. They are in Costa Rica, so we'll watch a video. There is a BBC documentary about how they live and how they swim. It's amazing, and yeah, so it's a bucket of sloth. Sorry. Well, uh, okay, so this topic, if you are into ecology, if you are study science, you will take with Rachel this topic that is called conservation biology. It's a hot topic right now in all over the world, and the idea is to try to preserve the species, yeah, to preserve biodiversity and to prevent extinction of animals and plants. It focuses on preventing the species extinction, maintaining healthy ecosystems, and protecting genetic diversity of populations. In addition, something that we're going to talk today a lot is the balance between human needs with environmental protection. So last time we were talking, if you live in Winnipeg, depending on where you live, how many plants, how many animals, how close are you to a forest, the temperature of your house can be very different, and how expensive it is will be very different. So we're going to talk about something called urban ecology. Yeah, that is, we have been talking about the forest, about all those things, but also something a hot topic right now is to study how animals and plants interact in our environment. Yeah, in cities like ours. So you are, I don't want to stress you. You did a lot of the nature journal. Yeah, you are almost done with that, but I'm sure that now you have a better appreciation of the importance of the Assiniboia forest. I don't know how many animals you saw. Some of you showed me examples of deers, some of you some footprints of different animals. Some of you showed me that told me that there was coyotes. Yeah, uh, I want that you think about the pros and the cons of living close here. Yeah, some of you live in residence, so some of you told me, oh, I've seen coyotes in the morning that goes around, so it will be cool, but sometimes it's scary. And and the idea is how to preserve the an urban forest. Okay, so some of you told me this, that you go every day to with your dog to the Assiniboia forest, so it was pretty easy. But sometimes you say like, but I was also scared of the coyotes. It's always nice to see a deer, yeah, and if you live, I don't know, I have seen not only deers in Tuxedo, yeah, I used to bike to the university. I have seen deers even in River Heights. I don't know where like how far they go, but yes, yeah. So the question is, what do we do when the animals go to places that they are not supposed to go, that we want to protect them? We all know squirrels, yeah, and we know our friend the geese. And if you bike here, you know that all the bike routes, the geese and all, I don't know if one of you bike here, all the geese poop in the entire bike route. So you're like, Yeah, they are trying to make our life more difficult. They have all the grass, but they put exactly in the bike route, so they change everything. And maybe you're aware of many more birds that live there, yeah? So we see squirrels, we saw a lot of things that live in our ecosystem, but these are new. Here, the coyotes are not the first time that they have been reported to that we have to be careful, yeah? But definitely they are an important part of the ecosystem. I don't know if have you seen a fox there? Somebody has seen a fox? Tell us, Mike. Where do you see it?
It was back in Ontario. I it was kind of like a spring split second, but we were going across the road and my dad's doing on the brakes and we could see this orange thing scurry off into a bush and we were just like, nah.
In my case, I saw it crossing Grant, yeah, and I was like, no, you're supposed to go to the Sinoboa forest and not supposed to, and and this is one of the big problems that we have with the Sinoboa forest that Grant goes through that, so there could be many car accidents there, or there are generally from time to time animals that are dead there, yeah. So to prevent that, not only in Canada, but in many developed countries, they are these corridors that connect habitats. Yeah. So here you can see this. I think this is in Banff. Oh yeah, in the National Park of Banff, you can see that there is a highway there. So it will be very dangerous and cause a lot of accidents. So it's actually not only good for the environment, but also good for the people and will save a lot of money for for the car insurance, for a lot of things to have actually this type of corridors. Yeah, so it's a narrow strip of that allowed to habitats to be connected, and these are artificial corridors that are constructed. Of course, there need to be ecologists involved in the construction of those corridors, but definitely they are becoming more and more common in specific places. And so they promote the dispersals and help to sustain populations. So now populations are not separating; they can just cross through here, yeah, and there are cameras that show how they cross. And the only bad thing is that they can also spread diseases. This would be something bad, that if there is a disease now, there will be a migration of the disease. But these corridors are a part of the conservation biology, yeah, that we talk about the importance of that field that help us to maintain uh, and preserve the ecosystems. So this is something very common, and that it's something that are becoming uh, prevalent all over the world.
When you're driving down the highway, it's hard to avoid a deer because you never know when it's coming. By the time you do see it, it's often too late. But what Canada, wildlife scientist Tony Clevenger has been studying how road construction affects animals in Banff National Park.
It can have important impacts on the reproductive success because females aren't being able to access important spring habitat because they're not crossing the highway. So it's important that we maintain these movements and we maintain this access to the important biological resources throughout the year. And wildlife crossing structures do that.
Beginning in the 1980s, authorities began installing a system of underpasses and overpasses in Banff. The structures were designed for animal use only and were located where animals were likely to cross the road.
The data speaks for itself. For example, here on the Trans-Canada Highway in Banff National Park, there were on average more than 100 elk vehicle collisions per year before the fencing and the wildlife crossing structures, and now it's down to less than a half dozen. So these are huge reductions by having these mitigation measures in place that are improving motorist safety, they're saving lives, and also in a protected area like Banff National Park, it's important because the objective of this national park is to protect wildlife.
Instead of blocking the road entirely, planners used fences to funnel wildlife towards the crossing structures, which were planted with native vegetation. A few species, like deer, elk, and moose, immediately started using them and were followed by more skeptical species, like wolves and grizzlies. Within a few decades, even the most reluctant species, like lynx, had adapted to using the crossings. In 2012, a male grizzly was recorded crossing the structures 66 times in one summer. By crossing the highway, the bear's habitat expanded to include potential mates on the other side of the road, which decreases the likelihood of inbreeding.
What we've been able to show is that by having these overpasses and underpasses in place, we've restored genetic connectivity across the highway here in Banff National Park.
So if these crossings are improving safety and restoring habitats, why aren't they everywhere?
Probably the biggest factor that would limit construction of wildlife crossings is cost and having the funding within the Transportation Agency budgets to build these wildlife crossing structures.
Structures can save money in the long run, but the initial investment is significant. Constructing an overpass like this one in Banff typically costs several millions of dollars. So to create more cost-effective solutions, Clevenger organized a design competition with a group of experts that included ecologist Nina Marie Lister. They named it ARC, short for Animal Road Crossing.
Our argument was, for the money that was spent, you could be getting a lot more value if you designed them specifically for the target client, which is wildlife and humans driving underneath them.
Instead of adapting traditional plans from highway engineers, ARC encouraged different stakeholders to collaborate on structure design.
There had to be a landscape architect, an architect, and an engineer, as well as ecologists. And so for the first time ever, you had a very different way of designing a structure. And we asked for them to be ecologically sustainable. They also had to consider materials that were recyclable, reusable, modular, and movable.
The contest was a success, and ARC generated groundbreaking solutions, including a winning design that reduced costs and improved safety by removing the need for pillars on the highway.
The cost of that overpass was about 30 to 35% cheaper than overpasses that were being built at the same time in Banff National Park.
The state of Colorado agreed to build the design, but more immediate needs, including a flooding event in 2013, have prevented development.
And you can see entire roads washed out.
The design was never built. But that doesn't mean it won't be. As climate change strains ecosystems and reduces habitats, animals will change their patterns of movement, and the need for effective crossings will become even more acute. To solve the problem, Lister hopes that planners will return to the ARC designs, which remain viable solutions.
These things work and they solve the problem once and for all. So you build a network of these bridges that connect in the right places, you've solved the problem for good. It's done. Problem solved.
Yeah, so the goal of urban ecology is to examine organisms and their environment in urban settings. So I told you about the importance of, for example, to have neighborhoods with trees and versus not having trees. The same thing to live around here. It increased a lot. The property tuxedo is also expensive because you have a forest here, but also have challenges that if you live around here, you will see animals crossing and it could be dangerous. Yeah. Even your pets can be in danger if you need to be with them. One of the key things here are urban streams. Yeah. So, I don't know if in Winnipeg this is something that is all of you are aware of that. For example, we know that flooding every year is becoming a problem. Yeah, so there are neighborhoods. I don't know if you have here a sewer backup. If in one of your houses you have a sewer backup. Yeah, so what happened? We have trees, make our property more expensive, but the roots can go inside of the pipes, and now you can have a sewer backup. So again, plants and animals are interacting here, changing that. We also have a lot of this beautiful Winnipeg, how much snow it has, but to go from winter to spring, there is always a flood, and there is so there is a lot of research in that area to remove the rapid water fluctuation after rainfall, or in this case after the snow melt. And here, for example, there is an example. If you see people is adding plants close to the river to try to help them to create a buffer. Yeah, so if you remember the last class, in the previous class, we talked about that in areas where there is deforestation, it's more likely that the rivers grow a lot. There is a lot of or the river disappear, or when there is a lot of water, it will come at the same time. So there will be a big flood. So when you have trees and plants there, you work like a buffer. So the river will be more stable. Yeah. So here again is urban ecology. We're trying to make a small stream, a small river to work better for the environment and for the city. Okay, so we talk about conservation biology. We told you that one thing that they are doing is corridors, yeah, to connect ecosystems. I told you that another field that is growing very fast is urban ecology. The second one is this restoration biology. And here I wanted you see the difference of this, yeah. So here we have two ecosystems, one in 1991, and here as a result of mining. And here, 9 years later, you see how the ecosystem came back. So this is actually perfect to put together, to remember what we studied in the first class, that it was ecological successions. Yeah. So if you remember, the ecosystems, they have done this many times in history when there is no plants at all, no plants at all. So what you can do is pioneer species can go there. If you remember, after the pioneer species, there will be primary, secondary, yeah, other species that they will go there to go into a climate society, a climate ecosystem. How this can be done? Yeah, because as we know that ecosystem follow those patterns, we can try to speed up that. So given enough time, we know that biological communities can recover from this type of things. I don't know if you have watched, Rebecca, maybe you have watched many documentaries, a podcast about Chernobyl. Yeah, could you tell us a little bit about that, about Chernobyl? Have you heard about anything that happened in Chernobyl? Somebody knows what happened in Chernobyl?
Their explosion actually in what, 85-ish? Still like radioactive.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, there's wonderful documentaries about that, and there's an HBO show that is really good about that. But actually, species have been adapting to that, to high levels of radiation. And when if I go, like I thought that it will look like this, but actually it looked more like that. But still, there is a lot of radiation. It's still not safe, but the species adapted to higher levels of radiation. And I will show you that. Ecosystems, there are specific animals, plants, and microorganisms that are able even to reduce radioactivity and restore ecosystems. Okay, so this is not an exception. It's becoming like a rule that we can recover and restore ecosystems. Yeah, restoration ecology seeks to initiate and speed up the recovery of degraded ecosystems, and two strategies is bioremediation, that is remove a toxic material. So in Chernobyl, it will be the radiation, yeah. In mining places, it will be toxic molecules, toxic material. And the second thing is bio-augmentation of an ecosystem processes. So the idea is to add a microorganism to add essential materials. So two strategies. One, to have microorganisms to clean the environment, yeah, to remove toxic material. Second strategy is to add microorganisms to add essential materials, yeah, to add the nitrogen, to add the things, the nutrients that are necessary for the organisms to survive, to the ecosystem to come back and speed up the recovery, the restoration. So here you can see a plant bioremediation plant that is cleaning uranium. And how they do it. So we are detoxifying the ecosystem by using bacteria, fungi, and plants. So what they do is to take in the same thing that we talk about plastic, that there are fungi, that there is bacteria, that there is different organisms that are able actually to break those big molecules and turn it into something that is not as toxic. Same thing they are doing here. So for example, here there are some bacteria. This is the name of the bacteria that is able to metabolize uranium. And there are many other examples of other organisms. So for example, some of you that study ecology, one important field, I don't know if you will continue be as important, is every time that there is an oil spill, somebody needs to clean it. So there is a specific microorganisms that are able to clean the environment. It will take some time, but it's something that is very common. Okay, so bioremediation, using bacteria, fungi, plants, using all these organisms to detoxify, to clean something. And I show you an example here that is radioactive materials. The other one, the second strategy, is biological augmentation. This one is using organisms to add essential materials to a degraded ecosystem. So you can have a desert, that desert doesn't have nutrients, so the plants cannot grow. So what you can do is to add specific plants. Do you remember the pioneer species that grow where nobody grows? That grows on rocks, that grows in places that there is no nutrients, but they can grow in those areas. So you can add those species. And for example, here, if you remember this plant that we talked in the beginning of the semester, that they are very good at fixing nitrogen. Yeah, they have a lot of light. They can reproduce really fast, so they can add nitrogen into the environment, into the soil. And nitrogen is very important. Why? Because it's involved, for example, in our DNA. We have DNA and we have nitrogen in our DNA and our RNA. So it's very important. They are also in the roots. They have a specific fungi that can capture the nitrogen. So adding those plants, it will make this pioneer the ecosystem to recover faster. And here is the example of this plant. Okay, so I told you that there are two strategies to restore an ecosystem. One is to have microorganisms or to have specific organisms to detoxify that ecosystem, and the second strategy is to have biological augmentation, that is to add organisms into that ecosystem that can add essential materials. Yeah, so those essential materials will create, for example, the nutrients, so the plants and the animals or the ecosystem can recover. So you can turn a desert into, for example, the Amazon. The Amazon forest actually has very poor nutrients, has no nutrients. If we cut the Amazon forest, it will turn into a desert. Yeah, that part, if you remember, South America and Africa were together, and that is an area of the planet that is very old. It has no more nutrients. It had been dissolved. There is no nutrients there. The Amazon forest has a lot of nutrients because it has a lot of organic material. All the plants and all the trees that are there, all the animals, all the organic material is falling and is being recycled all the time. Every time that we go to the Amazon forest in Colombia and we see that they are cutting that area, the crops that they grow there, they grow excellent for 2 or 3 years later. That they lose all the nutrients because there is no nutrients there. So it will become a desert if we don't allow the forest to recover. Okay. And if you want to know more about that, when you take ecology, when you talk to Rachel, there is something very interesting about that. Okay, finally, to finish today, so I put this picture of the sloth more for me because I love to see them, make me happy. I sometimes we talk about so many sad things about in biology about climate change, and seeing these animals make me happy. Seeing the sloth. So one of my dreams is one day go to Costa Rica, to these places where we are not talking. So in addition to the urban ecology, we have one thing that is very important is to have areas of reserve. Yeah, so places where you can have some animals and some plants that they can be protected. So so these reserve zones are undisturbed areas with modified and regions that are surrounding it that serve as a buffer zone. So you have, for example, I don't know, this green area that is protected, that they should not cut the trees, that they should not be humans there, and around that there will be other regions that have some degree of human intervention, but you create these areas where that you have different degrees of human intervention, and they will be less there will be a lot of protection to this type of species. Some of the examples of that are Costa Rica, yeah, that have a lot of them, and also Fiji in terms of ocean, yeah, areas of reserve in the ocean are there. And what is important of that is that, for example, when you have those areas that are reserved, yeah, what happens is that around that area, the fishing, the number of fishes are going to increase. So showing you that you allow the fish to recover, you have a lot of small and immature progeny that later they will move to other places. So it shows that this system works. Okay, so let me show you an example of this reserve zone that they have these animals here.
Well, my name is Claire Trimer, and I'm a baby sloth wrangler at the Sloth Sanctuary of Costa Rica. Well, we probably have about 135 sloths here under a roof that we're caring for. There's pretty much sloths everywhere you look around here. I have several roles here. One of them is to supervise the babies. I weigh them every morning, keep after the health issues. Oop. You went poo yesterday. Sometimes their mothers die, and in that way they're orphaned. Sometimes if a mother senses that a baby Well, my name is Claire Trimer, and I'm a baby sloth wrangler at the Sloth Sanctuary of Costa Rica. Well, we probably have about 135 sloths here under a roof that we're caring for. There's pretty much sloths everywhere you look around here. I have several roles here. One of them is to supervise the babies. I weigh them every morning, keep after the health issues. Oop. You went poo yesterday. Sometimes their mothers die, and in that way they're orphaned. Sometimes if a mother senses that a baby is too weak to survive, or they actually have some kind of problem that the mother has sensed, these babies are not strong enough to cling, and they fall to the ground repeatedly. A mother sloth is vulnerable every time she comes to the ground. And if she thinks that this sloth is not going to survive, she's not going to keep coming to the ground and risking her life over and over again.
I love sloths because it's been my favorite animal for about 10 years, but I love their sweet little face. They don't ever want to hurt anybody. They just want to be happy and be peaceful, and I just love their sweet smile. My day as a volunteer involves a lot of hard work. You know, your payoff for the day is getting to interact with the sloths and play with the sloths and maybe even hold the sloths' babies and take them for walks.
This is Al.
Okay, so with this picture, I want to finish the class. It was wonderful to have you this semester. We are done. It's great to have you. Good luck in the final exam. If you have questions about the final exam, let me know. You can stay. Next class, you don't have to come, only if but I will be here answering questions. If some of you say like, oh, I'm not doing as well as I want in this class, I will be helping you to answer some questions, okay?